So, how I price a custom piece of furniture. So, let's imagine I've had someone get in touch with me wanting a custom dining table, and maybe they've never seen my work before. So, first thing I do always is refer people to my website. And the way I've set up my website is that there's a bucket load of information, not only on myself and the way I produce my furniture, but also on the individual products, from lots of images of each piece, a detailed breakdown of the materials involved, and the materials that I use and why, and pricing. Most important, pricing. I know a lot of people don't put the pricing on their websites, but I really don't want to waste time receiving emails from people asking how much something is, and I spend the time giving a thoughtful response only for them to not get in touch because it's out of their price point. And that's totally fair enough. Not everyone can afford custom made furniture, and that's fine. Let's just create a shortcut, So I refer them to the website. Once they've seen that, if they're still happy, I'll ask for more information about the piece that they want. They might say, "Hey, we want a six-seater dining table." That's great, but I'm like, what timber do you want to use? What if it's six-seater? Send me the dimensions that you're hoping for. Is it a round table? Is it rectangle? Is it 1.8 meters generally by 1 meter for a six-seater, or something different? Are there any parameters, as in, like, does it need to go up a lift to get to your house that's going to affect the design? Um, the functionality, maybe it's a sideboard that needs to be used for a record player, and we need to have specific storage sections for the records and access for power at the back. So all the specifics, what is it going to be used for, what are the dimensions, the timber specifications, and again, like, what the design style. Is there any pieces that you like that you want it to look like? Is there maybe furniture in your house that's, like, maybe they've got a sideboard in their house that's like a central piece for them that they really like, and we can take elements from that piece and design it into the dining table. Maybe the profile of the legs, we can use that in the profile in the legs for the dining table. I always ask, what dining chairs do they have? If they already have dining chairs, how big are they? Because all this stuff is just going to affect the style of the chair, of the table that I'm going to make. If it's a chair that's got a massive presence, like a 600 mil wide chair, then you might need to have a dining table that's more generous in sizing. So I asked quickly, dimensions, timber, functionality, and aesthetics. So what style do you want? And maybe they'll send me some images of other work that they like, or they'll be like, "Hey, I really like this table on your website. Can we do something a little bit different?" Sure. Once I've got that, I can go through the info that they're giving me, and I can generate a pretty simple ballpark figure. And I'll often do, like, let's say it's 10 to 15 grand for something like that. And it's like 10 for the most basic iteration, 15 grand for the most complex, and, within reason. And I'll just say, this is the ballpark. If you want to go ahead, I need a 50% deposit. And if you pay the deposit, then I'll put together some digital drawings, as in I'll draw up the piece in CAD, and I'll send you some digital images of the drawings, so that for you to confirm or for us to revise. And I'll often say, like, with three revises. So I make it really clear. I suppose what I'm trying to say is I want all the information to be clear. I don't ever want to be caught off guard when designing and making custom pieces for people, because there's so much gray area there that can really bite you in the butt if you're not on point. So ask for the information. I don't start work until I get paid, man. Never. I mean, unless it's something that I'm really interested in doing. So maybe someone's hit me up and they really want an armchair, and it's inspired by an image that they've sent me, and I'm frothing on that. And I'm like, hey, I really want this job. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw this up. Because I spend, to draw something up is like 4 hours in CAD, give or take. It takes it's like a half day's work. So if I'm really inspired and I want the job, maybe I'll put the energy in and I'll do that. But most of the time, I won't start until I get paid. And I generally ask for a 50% deposit before I get started, or I ask for a design fee, which is like $400. So I say, hey, if you pay me a design fee, and which is $400, I can draw it up for you and you can see what we're working with. If you decide to go ahead, that design fee then dissolves into the total cost of the product. So if I've said it's going to cost 10 grand and the design fee is $400, then obviously the remaining balance is $9,600. So two ways that I go about that. And that's just to make sure I'm not wasting my time, because I mean, I do this today. Back in the day when I started, man, so much time wasted pitching ideas, Um, and yeah, these days, I mean, when you have to do that, you have to do that, and that's fine. I think I'm okay that I did that in the past, and I don't think anyone that's just starting should charge straight away for a design fee. I mean, fuck, if you can, then do it. But I think that there's, like it's okay not to. But where I'm at today is, yeah, I'll always charge for that. Once I've agreed to it, and I draw it up in design in CAD, and I send them the digital images. Basically, we're I mean, I have to be really excited. Anything that I create, I'm generally excited to anything I design, I'm generally excited to create, and there will always be options in them. So I'm going to send them digital images that are pretty basic, as in you can't see all the design detail, and I'll be like, the basic iteration is this much, and then the more detailed iteration, as in like some more exposed joinery. So I can either use dominoes and just have the piece structurally sound, or I can use through tenons, like stuff that's going to be a little bit more detailed, a little bit more intimate, and yeah, just offer that price point to the clients, as in one's going to cost $10,000 and one's going to cost $15,000. How I do my pricing breakdown is the cost of timber. So I buy my timber in bulk, so I'll figure out how much timber I think I'm going to need for this project. Oversized. So if I need 150 wide boards, I'm going to cost 200 wide boards, because I know I'm not going to be able to get. I might not be able to get you're not going to get 150 out of a 150 board. So it just gives me movement to play. And then I'll also add 1.3. So 30% on top of the cost of materials. So I've allowed for extra materials in calculating, and then I charge 1.3 on top of that as a wastage fee. The hassle of ordering the materials, storing the materials, the cost of me to have them in my workshop while it hasn't been used, as in while I don't have a job for it. Yeah, so I know some people might charge more than that, some people might charge less than that. I don't even know if there's a rule of thumb, but that's what I do, 1.3. And then I calculate my hours. I tend to be quite generous with my hours, as in I will write down the project from start to finish, how I see it from the design that I've created, and I will calculate how much time it is, and I'll times that by the hourly wage that I'm paying myself. Sometimes I get burnt, and something I think is going to be really easy. I'm sure we've all done it, and it takes double the time. That's always on me. Sometimes, so yeah, I've kind of learned to be a little bit more generous, and allow a little bit more time. And sometimes I win. Sometimes I think something's going to be really complicated, and I go and I get it the first time. With custom furniture, depending how adventurous the piece is, you really don't know. If it's something that I'm really confident with, then obviously my pricing can be more on point. But yeah, basically, clear communication from the beginning. The fact that I've sent the client digital images of what we're going to create means that when they get the piece, there's no gray space. They know what they're getting. I know a lot of designers talk about, or woodworkers talk about, maybe the client wasn't happy with the piece that they did because it wasn't clearly communicated. The sketch didn't show one of the angles correctly, or maybe they didn't know that the tone of timber was going to look so red, or something like that, whatever the reason is. And that's why, again, having my website clearly show previous work. So, and I only work with 3 species, which maybe I'll chat about another time. But so if someone wants oak, walnut, or blackwood, they look at my website, and there's plenty of examples of what oak, walnut, and blackwood look like. So they know what the finished piece is going to look like. They know what the design's going to look like, because it's been clearly communicated. So that when they receive it, um, yeah, it all comes together. So 50% deposit before I start work. And that's before I do anything. I won't, I really spend as little as possible time on the project, unless it's something I'm really interested in which case I might do a bunch of extra work because I'm just frothing. And for me, that's intrinsic reward opposed to extrinsic, like a monetary exchange. So 50% deposit. And then once the piece is made, remaining balance before the job leaves the shop. And that's kind of like the hook to get the final payment. It's like, hey, it's ready to go. I'm about to put the final coat of oil on it. It should be ready to leave the workshop next week. And I'd give them time. I don't say, hey, it's ready to go today. Pay me, please. I'll always give people time. Ready to go. Here's the invoice attached. Once payment's made, I'll get it on the road ASAP. Or it's not going to leave the shop till the final payment's made. Yeah, how I custom price furniture. I hope that makes sense.